If you think marriage is about trust, try waking up to realize your husband's love letters were actually life insurance policies in disguise. My name's Charlotte Vance, 32, and 2 months ago my husband tried to kill me, not in some dramatic Hollywood way, but with quiet precision only greed can buy. It started the week after my father died. He left behind a sizable estate, a vineyard, 2 houses, and a trust worth over $3.4 million. My husband, Adrian, held me while I cried, whispered that he'd take care of everything. And he did. The paperwork, the lawyers, even the funeral. He said he wanted me to rest. I thought that was love. It was strategy. For the first few weeks, things felt almost normal. He'd bring me tea, cook dinner, tell me how strong I was. Then one night, he suggested we get away for a weekend. Just us, somewhere quiet. I said yes. That's how every trap starts, with the kind of kindness that makes you lower your guard. We drove to our cabin in Asheville, the one Dad built when I was a kid. The air smelled like pine and rain. Adrian unpacked the groceries, poured wine, lit a fire. It all felt perfect until the next morning. He offered to make breakfast. Blueberry pancakes, my favourite. I took one bite and immediately felt something wrong. A metallic taste like rust and bitterness. My stomach twisted. He smiled. "You okay, sweetheart?" That smile, it was too calm. I excused myself, stumbled into the bathroom, and vomited until my throat burned. My vision blurred. My skin went cold, and through the haze I saw it. His reflection in the mirror, standing outside the door, listening. That's when I knew. He wasn't worried. He was waiting. The world went dark for a moment, but when I came to, I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just whispered one thing to myself. Play dead, Charlotte, and so I did. When I opened my eyes again, everything was spinning. I was lying on the bathroom floor, the tile freezing against my cheek. Through the cracked door, I could see Adrian pacing in the living room, talking softly on the phone. "Yes, it's done," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. "By the time they find her, it'll look like food poisoning." A pause. Then he laughed. A low, satisfied sound that didn't sound human. That laugh kept me conscious. Rage has a way of keeping your heart beating when everything else wants to stop. I stayed still until the house went quiet. He'd gone outside. I could hear the car door slam. Probably to get help. That was my cue. I crawled to the sink, my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip it. My stomach still burned. My lips were numb, but my brain was awake. Adrenaline is a hell of a medicine. I found my phone on the counter. Dead battery. Typical. But Adrian's phone, it was charging in the bedroom. Every step toward that room felt like walking through fog. My knees almost gave out twice, but I made it. His phone lit up the moment I picked it up. A message flashed across the screen. Transfer cleared. She won't feel a thing. Another number replied seconds later. Good, make sure the cabin burns too. My blood turned to ice. He'd paid someone, a hitman probably, to clean up the scene, and he wasn't planning to leave any trace of me behind. That's when my training kicked in. Not formal training, life training. My dad used to tell me, never panic when you're losing. The calmest person wins, so I calmed down. I unplugged his phone, slipped out the back door, and ran. Barefoot, dizzy, half poisoned, but alive. There was an old ranger station about a mile down the hill. I stumbled through branches and mud, clutching the phone like a weapon. By the time I reached it, the world was spinning again. I collapsed on the porch and hit the emergency call button before I blacked out. When I woke up in the hospital 2 days later, the doctor told me I was lucky. Whatever you ate contained high traces of arsenic. A few more minutes and your organs would have shut down. Adrian, of course, told everyone I'd had a bad allergic reaction. He posted a photo online, him holding my hand in the hospital, fake tears in his eyes, captioned, Life's fragile. Hug your loved ones. And that's when I decided he wouldn't see me cry again. He'd see me come back. I used his phone, the one I'd taken, to send a message to that mystery number. Just one line. She didn't die, and neither will you. Then I hit send from his own number. When I got out of the hospital, the police were useless. As expected, arsenic leaves traces, sure, but not enough to prove intent when the suspect is charming, wealthy, and well-connected. Adrian Blake knew exactly how to play the victim. He showed up to my discharge with flowers, fake concern dripping off him like cologne. "Charlotte, you scared me to death," he said softly, kissing my forehead, like he hadn't tried to kill me. The nurses smiled. "He's been here every day," one whispered. I smiled too, weakly, because predators expect weakness. And I was done disappointing expectations. At home, he acted like nothing had happened. Cooked dinner, poured wine, even offered to get rid of all the old food just in case. I nodded, pretending to sip while my mind spun like clockwork. If he wanted to play husband, I'd play wife. For now. For the next week, I studied him. His passwords, his calls, his patterns. He had a burner phone, a hidden laptop, and a locked drawer in his office, labelled archives. Inside, he kept old contracts, offshore statements and photos, pictures of me, taken while I slept. But the real gem was a folder on his desktop named Legacy. It wasn't photos, it was a will, forged with my digital signature. It left everything, our home, my inheritance, even my insurance, to him, and dated 2 days before the poisoning. That was the confirmation I needed. He thought he'd written my ending, but he'd just handed me the opening scene of his downfall. I transferred copies of everything to a cloud account under a fake alias. Then I called my lawyer, not the one he hired, but a real one. I didn't tell her everything yet, just enough to plant the seed. By day, I smiled. By night, I built. I found out about the woman he'd been seeing. A woman named Diana Cole, listed as his consultant. She wasn't a consultant. She was the cleaner, the one he'd paid through the shadow account. And guess what? She had no idea I was still alive. I texted her, again from Adrian's phone, pretending to be him. "Need to meet." "Change of plans. Cabin tomorrow night," she agreed immediately. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I rehearsed every move, what to wear, what to say, how to keep my hands from shaking, because tomorrow I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to win. The next night I drove to the cabin, the same one Adrian told her to burn down. I made sure the lights were on, that the air smelled like gasoline, that the cameras were recording. When she walked in, she looked confused. "Where's Adrian?" I smiled. "He'll be here soon. But first, let's talk about the payment he never finished." Her eyes widened. I saw it. That flicker of fear when people realize they've been caught in the wrong story. Before she could bolt, I showed her the texts, the bank transfers, the murder plan. Then I said, calm as ever, "Either you tell the police what he did, or you take the fall for it. Your choice." She chose survival. Smart woman. By the time Adrian pulled up outside, blue and red lights were already reflecting off the cabin windows. I stepped out onto the porch as the officers moved in. He froze, confused, furious. "Charlotte, what did you do?" I looked at him, finally steady. "What you taught me," I said softly. I stayed calm, and I won. Adrian's arrest made the morning news, not because of justice, but because of shock. Respected businessman charged with attempted murder of wife. The headline trended for days. His colleagues called it a tragic misunderstanding. His lawyer called it temporary insanity. I called it closure. But the truth, it wasn't over yet. You don't just erase 15 years of control in one night. You dismantle it piece by piece until there's nothing left to rebuild. After the police took him, I returned to the house. Our house. Every corner smelled like him, polished wood, expensive whiskey, and deceit. I walked straight to his office, the one with that glass desk he guarded like a vault. I sat in his chair and opened his laptop. Finally free to breathe in the silence he used to fill with orders. The prosecutors needed more evidence. I gave them everything. The recordings, the bank accounts, the offshore transfers, all neatly labelled and time-stamped. But I didn't stop there. Adrian had always obsessed over reputation. The man couldn't handle a rumour about bad stock choices, let alone an affair and a murder plot. So I sent the story, with proof, to a journalist I trusted. Not for money, not for revenge, for truth. By the time his bail hearing came, every news station had his face on screen, the perfect portrait of a man who thought he'd never be caught. His company froze his shares, his friends ghosted him, and the mistress, Diana, turned state witness. When I walked into court, he looked smaller, not physically, spiritually. The arrogance was gone, the control was gone. For the first time, Adrian Blake looked like a man facing consequences instead of controlling them. His lawyer tried everything, manipulation, pity, even fake tears, but the jury saw through it. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, I didn't cry. I smiled quietly. 6 months later, I stood on that same porch where I'd once begged him to listen to me. The house was legally mine now. Inheritance restored, name cleared, but I decided to sell it. I wanted no part of the empire he built on deceit. The day I handed the keys to the buyer, I walked through the empty rooms one last time. I found an old photo on the floor, the two of us younger, pretending to be in love. I tore it in half and left my side on the counter. The rest, his side, I burned in the fireplace. When people ask me now if I miss him, I say, I don't miss the man. I miss the silence before I met him, because survival isn't about escaping the fire. It's about learning how to rebuild once the smoke clears. And as for the inheritance he wanted so badly, it funds a foundation now for women rebuilding after domestic abuse and financial control. Every dollar he tried to steal now saves someone else. That's my revenge. Not rage, not destruction, just power quietly reclaimed. He thought I'd be a footnote in his story, but I became the headline he'll never outrun.